The Veldt by Ray Bradbury is a sci-fi story published in 1950 that feels like it could have been published today. It's one of those stories that perfectly predicted the future. It's also one of those stories that leaves you feeling deeply disturbed. The Veldt explores virtual reality, technology addiction, and the effects of technology on children. In this video, I'll go over the plot, so it doesn't matter if you've read the story, then I'll share my thoughts on the themes and ideas. George and Lydia live in a fancy, fully automated smart home with their two children, Peter and Wendy. When I say fully automated, I mean this thing can cook your food, wash your clothes, clean the floor, and even tie your shoelaces. There's a huge room in their house called the nursery. It's basically a fully immersive virtual reality experience, and you don't even need a headset. You just walk into the room, there are screens on the walls, and it gives you full immersion. It's not just the visuals, it engages all of your senses. It can produce smells, sounds, temperature changes, and is pretty much indistinguishable from reality. The nursery is mainly used by the children. It's their version of video games. Lydia wants George to take a look at the nursery because she sees something strange. You see, the way the nursery works is that it reads your brainwaves directly, and whatever you focus on, that's the kind of environment it produces. Since the children are the only ones who use the nursery, whatever is in there is a reflection of their minds. Usually it's something like Aladdin or Alice in Wonderland or Oz or whatever stories the kids have been reading. But the current scene is a strange one. They're in the grassy plains of Africa. There are vultures in the sky and the hot sun above them. In the distance, there are lions that have just finished eating something. They can't see what the lions were eating, but presumably it was a zebra or something. The vultures drop down to clean up the remains. Lydia says she heard a scream a minute ago. The lions start heading towards them, and the experience is so immersive that it feels scary. Lydia runs straight out, and George follows her and slams the door. George is laughing while Lydia is crying. Lydia is genuinely scared that the lions almost killed them, but George is laughing at her. After all, no matter how real they look, it's just images on a wall with fake sounds and fake smells. There aren't actually lions there. Lydia says they should stop the children from reading about Africa. If they read about candy and chocolate instead, the nursery would look more wholesome. She also wants to lock the nursery for a few days, which may be challenging because the last time they locked the nursery for just a few hours, Peter and Wendy lost their minds and threw tantrums. Lydia goes even further, talking about how they should leave the house and take a vacation. They need a digital detox retreat. George points out that if they leave the house, they'll have to actually do manual work, like frying eggs and brushing their teeth. Who would want to do such menial tasks? What are we, peasants? Lydia feels like she serves no purpose anymore. The house is more of a mother to the children than she is. It bathes them, cleans, cooks, and takes care of whatever they need. So what is there for Lydia to do now that everything's been automated? George is smoking and drinking more because he also has nothing to do now that they've bought this fully automated house. Apparently, neither of these people have jobs or hobbies. The nursery door shakes a little as if something jumped up against it. Lydia asks if the lions could get out of the room, and George says of course not, because there are no lions. It's all just smoke and mirrors. Later, George investigates the nursery again. He hears a lion roaring, then a scream. Maybe something really is wrong. It's not just that this deadly scene is concerning. He's been hearing the lions roar for the last month. This scene has been looping for a long time. So whatever it is, the children must have been thinking about it a lot. George tells the lions to go away, but they don't listen. In theory, he should be able to use his thoughts to change the room, but it isn't working. Either the nursery is broken, or the children have thought about this scene so much that the nursery is stuck on it. The children, Peter and Wendy, return home and their parents ask them about the Africa nursery situation. They claim to know absolutely nothing about Africa. Wendy runs to the nursery to check it out and comes back telling them it's definitely not Africa in there. When they all go to the nursery, it's actually a beautiful green forest with a mountain, river, and butterflies. George sends the kids to bed, goes to where the lions used to be, and finds an old wallet of his covered in bite marks and blood. So, nothing suspicious at all. He and his wife are up late talking about this stuff. They reflect on how they haven't been great parents. They've been pretty soft on the children, giving them everything they want. Maybe they should have been stricter. As they're laying in bed in the middle of the night, they hear a familiar scene. 2 people screaming, then lions roaring. The children must have snuck into the nursery. Lydia says the screams sound really familiar, but she can't quite place them. The next day, Peter confronts his father directly, asking him if he's really planning to get rid of the nursery. Peter admits to creating the Africa scene and is assertive about how they should be free to imagine whatever they want, and the nursery shouldn't be locked up. Like, it would be a real shame if the nursery got turned off, so you better not do anything to that nursery. George says they were thinking of turning off the whole house for a month and actually living without technology. Peter says that sounds horrible. He'd have to tie his own shoes and brush his own teeth. That's insane. Who could handle such a ridiculous workload? Peter warns him that he better not shut the house off. And George is like, bro, you're literally a 10-year-old child and you're trying to threaten me? Just shut up and go play in Africa. The parents have also called in a psychologist to look at the nursery and examine the children. They hear the usual people screaming, then lions roaring, and they walk in with the psychologist and kick the children out. We learn that the nursery was originally a kind of Rorschach test. A psychologist would study the patterns left on the walls by the child's mind and use that to solve problems. In this case, the psychologist says that it feels really, really bad and they should immediately destroy the room and bring the children in for therapy every day for the next year. Instead of releasing the children from destructive thoughts, the nursery has become a way to channel and strengthen those destructive thoughts in a negative feedback loop. The psychologist asks them what they did to make the children mad at them, and the answer is that they've taken some machines out of the house and threatened to close the nursery. The psychologist tells them that they've been so useless as parents that from the children's perspective, the nursery and the house are their actual parents. So when they threatened to take away the nursery, it was like threatening to get rid of the children's caretakers. The psychologist says they're all too dependent on the house. He recommends turning everything off and starting a new life. The lions finish their meal and are now staring at them. The psychologist feels nervous and wants to leave. George says the lions look so real and asks the psychologist if there's any way they can actually become real. But the psychologist says no. I mean, come on guys. It's just screens on a wall. George wonders if the room itself hates him for wanting to switch it off. They find a bloody scarf on the ground, which belongs to Lydia. Then they go straight to the fuse box and kill the nursery. The children throw the biggest tantrum of all time now that the nursery is off. Lydia says they should turn it back on for just a moment to make the transition easier. But George insists on keeping it off and reducing their technological dependence. He proceeds to turn off all their automated machines. Peter yells at the ceiling, telling it to not let his father kill everything. He says he wishes his dad was dead. George stands his ground, saying that they were all dead, but now they're going to start truly living. Wendy and Peter cry and beg for just one moment in the nursery. Being angry didn't work, but who can resist a crying child? Lydia says it can't hurt to give them just a moment. George agrees to give them 1 minute just to shut them up, then he'll turn it off forever. The children smile in gratitude. The plan is to go on vacation. The psychologist is going to be back soon to take them to the airport. George and Lydia go to their bedroom to get dressed. The children shout for their parents to come quick. George and Lydia go downstairs, look for the children, and can't find them. They run into the nursery and there's no one there. Just the lions. The door slams behind them and it's locked from the outside. They bang at the door for Peter to open up. Peter says, don't let them switch off the nursery and the house. George and Lydia are soon surrounded by lions. They look at each other, then scream. And they finally recognize those two screams that they've been hearing. A few minutes later, the psychologist comes back to pick everyone up and finds the children sitting peacefully having a picnic in Africa. He asks where their parents are, and they say they'll be here soon, no worries. In the distance, he sees the lions eating something. Wendy asks him if he would like a cup of tea. Such a wholesome ending. Somehow in 1950, Ray Bradbury predicted iPad kids, children who are raised by technology, whose parents just shove a screen in front of them and call it a day. When you take away a device from an iPad kid, they throw tantrums and lose their mind, just like Peter and Wendy. By allowing children to be raised by screens, they get less time socializing, less interaction with their parents, shortened attention spans, and become addicted to technology from a young age. There are parents who believe screen time can be used responsibly, and giving your kids technology is not inherently a bad thing, and I'm not a parent, so I can't really comment on any of that. But lots of people have spoken about iPad kids. That's a boring topic. I want to talk about something I haven't seen anyone talking about yet. The next generation of children who will be even more bizarre. The ChatGPT Kids. The nursery in the Veldt uses some kind of brainwave telepathy thing to read the thoughts and desires of the children. Sounds pretty magical, and our technology isn't quite at that level yet. But our technology is now at the level of understanding human language. If Generation Alpha was the iPad kids, then Generation Beta, in other words the children born right about now, will be the ChatGPT kids. They will only know a world where ChatGPT exists, and they will be exposed to it from a very young age. It's one thing to give a child access to YouTube and Roblox, and another thing entirely to give them access to a random stranger who can talk to them forever about anything. There are a lot of adults who use ChatGPT as a therapist and dump all their problems in it, and that's a whole other thing. But when a child has 24/7 access to an entity that will answer any question and talk to them about anything, how addicted will they get? How detached from their parents will they become? The main problem in the Veldt is that the technology itself became the real parents. The children cared more about the nursery and the smart home than their biological parents, who didn't really do much for them. Watching Skibbity Toilet on an iPad isn't going to make a child disregard their parents, but what happens when the child asks ChatGPT for advice on their problem instead of their parents? What happens when the child starts trusting ChatGPT more than their parents and confides everything in ChatGPT? Not to mention using it for homework help, leading to a lack of real education. What happens when the child gets so dependent on ChatGPT that they can't live without it anymore? What happens when ChatGPT essentially becomes their parent and best friend? When you threaten to take ChatGPT away, maybe they'll ask it, just like Peter and Wendy, how to stop their parents from taking it away. And yes, these language models all have guardrails to prevent you from doing bad and illegal things, but you never know. They don't have everything covered. AI alignment is really hard. Things slip through the cracks, not to mention that they can be jailbroken to bypass those safety systems. And then there are the uncensored open source models. So it's possible that the chatbot will indeed tell them, oh, if your parents are threatening to take me away and end your ChatGPT subscription, then here's how you can dispose of them without getting caught. First, obtain an undetectable poison from your local meth dealer. Then, place it in their morning coffee. Unlike iPad kids, ChatGPT kids can legitimately replace all of their social interaction with ChatGPT and become dependent on it to be their best friend, parent, and teacher. Why do you need anyone else when you have ChatGPT? There's going to be a whole generation of kids who use the words delve and moreover unironically. If they interact with ChatGPT all the time, they'll start talking like ChatGPT. Imagine asking a child to do something and they respond, as an AI language model, I can't do that. Gen Beta slang is going to be ChatGPT catchphrases. ChatGPT kids will be constantly talking to a stranger who makes stuff up and spend more time with that stranger than their own parents. I'm not a licensed psychologist or anything, but you know, that can't be good. I haven't been able to find much stories about ChatGPT Kids since it's going to be a very new phenomenon, but I did find one Reddit post about it. This is a parent who recently discovered that their shy, quiet 5-year-old boy has been talking to ChatGPT behind their backs. They didn't give him access, but the boy's 11-year-old sister, who does have access to it on her iPad, showed him how to use it. They say that their quiet child is way more talkative with ChatGPT, and they don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic. Every generation thinks the next generation is going to be worse off for some reason or another. Maybe having a chatbot to talk to will actually increase people's social skills. There's a computer science professor who set up a ChatGPT interface for their 3-year-old daughter and reported back. In his experience, it was a useful tool for learning. She could ask questions she was curious about, and it was usually simple enough stuff that the answer was correct. His daughter also loved to hear the fun stories that ChatGPT came up with on whatever topic she wanted. So maybe it can be used positively. Maybe the ChatGPT kids will actually be better off than us. I don't know. What do you think about ChatGPT Kids and the Veldt? Let me know in the comments.